On March 17, 2026, U.S. Central Command posted a statement confirming that American forces had employed multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator munitions against hardened Iranian missile sites along the coastline near the Strait of Hormuz. The targets were underground storage facilities holding anti-ship cruise missiles, the weapons Iran had reportedly been counting on to threaten any tanker attempting to transit the corridor. The weapon reportedly used, the GBU-72 Advanced 5K Penetrator, was not a general-purpose bomb. It was a weapon specifically engineered to solve a specific problem. How do you destroy a military asset that a country is buried under layers of rock and reinforced concrete precisely because it expected to be bombed? And the answer to that question, and why it matters for the Strait of Hormuz, is what this script is about. Iran has been building hardened underground military facilities for decades, not because it expected to be caught unprepared, but precisely because it expected to be bombed and planned accordingly. The Zagros mountain range runs roughly parallel to the Persian Gulf coastline, providing a natural geological fortress along exactly the stretch of terrain that overlooks the Strait of Hormuz shipping corridor. Inside that terrain, according to defense reporting from multiple outlets, Iran reportedly stored anti-ship cruise missiles, including the Noor, Qader, and Abu Mahdi systems, weapons designed to strike naval vessels and tankers attempting to transit the strait. The strategic logic of underground storage is straightforward. Conventional air-delivered bombs, even precision-guided ones, detonate on or near the surface. They can destroy buildings, damage launch infrastructure, and neutralize exposed equipment. What they cannot reliably do is reach a missile stored 50 or 100 feet below the surface behind reinforced concrete and rock. Iran understood this. Its missile storage doctrine was built around the assumption that U.S. and Israeli airstrikes would be able to neutralize surface installations, but would face fundamental physical limits when it came to underground facilities. The GBU-72 was developed specifically to challenge that assumption. There's a useful way to think about what makes a bunker buster different from a conventional precision-guided bomb. A standard 2,000-pound JDAM is designed to detonate on or just after impact with a surface target, maximizing the blast effect across a wide area at ground level. A penetrator weapon like the GBU-72 has a hardened steel casing designed to survive the impact with earth and concrete, drilling through the material using kinetic energy before delayed fuse triggers the detonation deep inside the target structure. The explosive is not meant to damage the surface, it is meant to collapse the chamber inside. The GBU-72 Advanced 5K Penetrator weighs approximately 5,000 pounds, roughly 2,300 kilograms. It combines a BLU-138 Penetrator warhead with a JDAM, Joint Direct Attack Munition, guidance kit that uses a combination of GPS and inertial navigation for all-weather precision delivery. The weapon was developed beginning in 2017 under a rapid acquisition program and cleared for operational use in October 2021, when an F-15E Strike Eagle from the 96th Test Wing at Eglin Air Force Base released the first test unit over the base range. Development followed several years of modeling and simulation. The warhead's geometry and explosive configuration were optimized computationally before the first physical prototype was forged. To understand where the GBU-72 sits in the U.S. bunker-busting arsenal, it helps to map the full hierarchy. At the lower end is the BLU-109 warhead fitted to standard 2,000-pound JDAM bombs, widely used throughout this conflict and capable of penetrating moderate hardened structures. Above that is the GBU-28, a 5,000-pound laser-guided penetrator developed during the 1991 Gulf War, capable of reportedly penetrating up to around 30 meters of earth or 6 meters of reinforced concrete. The GBU-72 replaces the GBU-28, offering substantially higher lethality according to its program manager, now with GPS precision rather than laser guidance, deployable in all weather conditions. At the top of the hierarchy is the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, a 30,000-pound weapon that can reportedly penetrate up to 60 meters of reinforced concrete. However, the GBU-57 can only be carried by B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, limiting its flexibility. The GBU-72 fills the critical middle ground, significantly more capable than 2,000-pound class bunker busters, deployable from both B-1B bombers and F-15E Strike Eagles, which gives planners far more flexibility in how and when the weapon is used. The delayed fuse is a critical component. The weapon is designed to continue drilling after initial penetration. The fuse can be programmed to trigger at a specified depth or configured to sense underground cavities and detonate once inside the target structure. The purpose is to maximize destructive effect on the chamber walls and contents rather than producing a large crater at the surface. A bomb that detonates inside a missile storage chamber does fundamentally different damage than one that detonates at the entrance. How the GBU-72 connects to the broader bunker-busting ladder from the 2,000-pound JDAMs to the 30,000-pound MOP, and what Iran still has underground that none of these weapons may have fully reached, that is a breakdown on its own. Subscribe. We build these equations every week. Now, what was reportedly inside those sites, and whether the strikes changed the equation. According to the CENTCOM statement of March 17, the sites targeted stored Iranian anti-ship cruise missiles that posed a direct risk to international shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. These are not ballistic missiles. Anti-ship cruise missiles are aerodynamic weapons. They fly at low altitude, often sea-skimming at wave height to avoid radar detection and minimize the window in which a ship's defenses can intercept them. Iran's coastal variants, including the Noor and Qader systems, are derivatives of Chinese and domestically developed designs with ranges of hundreds of kilometers. A battery of these weapons, positioned in the coastal terrain of the Zagros Range, could reportedly threaten not just ships in the strait itself, but commercial traffic in the broader Persian Gulf approaches. The honest caveat that must be applied here, and which several defense outlets including the Drive have been explicit about, is that the full extent of the damage to these underground facilities cannot be independently verified. CENTCOM confirmed the employment of the munitions and confirmed the target set. What no public source has been able to independently assess is how many storage chambers were reached, how many missiles were reportedly neutralized, and how much of Iran's coastal anti-ship capability in this specific area has been degraded. According to Defense Security Asia reporting citing OSINT analysis, some satellite imagery and strike footage suggests that impact points were focused on tunnel entrances and surface support structures, which could indicate that the deepest chambers may remain intact behind cleared debris. This is the nature of underground facility strikes. The surface evidence is visible, but the underground effect is classified or unverifiable without direct access. General Kane's statement at the March 19th Pentagon briefing was specific. 5,000-pound Penetrator weapons had been dropped into underground storage facilities holding coastal defense cruise missiles and support equipment. The word "into" is the operationally significant detail, not at, not near, but into the storage facility. Whether that penetration achieved the desired destructive effect on the missiles themselves, or whether the entry created partial collapse that Iranian engineers can clear and restore, is a question that remains publicly unanswered. The public discourse around the Hormuz closure has focused heavily on the fast attack boats, the mines, and the drone threats, because those are the visible, trackable elements of Iran's maritime harassment campaign. What has received less attention is the role of Iran's coastal anti-ship missile batteries in anchoring the entire strategy. Even if every IRGC speedboat were neutralized and every mine cleared, a commercial tanker captain aware that hardened missile batteries in the coastal mountains could fire on his vessel from hundreds of kilometers away is not going to transit the corridor simply because the surface threats are gone. The insurance market will not reopen until it believes those missiles no longer represent a credible threat. The GBU-72 strikes were, in part, an attempt to address that specific dimension of the problem. Run the math on what a full reopening of the Strait of Hormuz actually requires. The mine threat must be addressed, and according to reporting, U.S. mine-hunting littoral combat ships were tracked moving toward the region specifically for that mission. The fast attack boat threat is being addressed by A-10s, Apaches, and naval surface action. The drone boat threat requires the same persistent low-altitude coverage, and the coastal missile threat, the deepest, most hardened layer of Iran's denial strategy, requires a weapon that can reach what is underground. The GBU-72 addresses that fourth layer. It does not address all four simultaneously, and it does not guarantee that every underground site has been reached or that Iran cannot reconstitute the capability over time. Here is the honest arithmetic. Iran's southern coastline along the Strait and Persian Gulf approaches stretches for hundreds of kilometers. The GBU-72 strikes on March 17th targeted specific hardened sites. According to defense reporting, those strikes were not a single event. General Kane's statement referenced multiple munitions used on multiple sites, but the full extent of Iran's dispersed coastal missile infrastructure, including how many sites may not yet have been targeted and how many remain operationally capable, is not publicly known. The strikes reportedly changed the equation. Whether they ended the threat is a different and harder question. The GBU-72's combat debut on March 17, 2026, marked the first confirmed operational use of the weapon against underground anti-ship missile storage in history. Historically, the weapon's predecessors, the GBU-28 and the GBU-57 MOP, were used primarily against hardened command facilities and nuclear infrastructure. Using a bunker buster in a maritime context, specifically against coastal anti-ship missile storage in support of a commercial shipping reopening campaign, is a new operational application of the technology. That application sits within a broader pattern of escalating bunker buster usage in the Iran conflict. In June 2025, during Operation Midnight Hammer, GBU-2, Spirit stealth bombers reportedly employed GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators against Iran's Fordo nuclear enrichment facility and the Natanz complex, the first confirmed combat use of the 30,000-pound weapon. The March 2026 GBU-72 strikes represent a continuation of that escalation into a new target category. Not nuclear facilities, but the coastal anti-ship weapons that Iran has been relying on to keep the strait commercially untenable. The central paradox of the Hormuz campaign applies here as much as anywhere else in this conflict. The United States has reportedly employed some of the most advanced and capable precision weapons in its arsenal. The bunker busters reached underground, the sortie count has passed 8,000, and the strait remains functionally closed to most commercial traffic. The weapons are working as designed. The problem is that closing a strait requires threatening it from multiple dimensions simultaneously, and each dimension requires a different answer. The GBU-72 is one answer for one dimension on one day. The corridor is still watching for the rest. What the mine-clearing operation, the sonar, the laser detection, the acoustic decoys, looks like from here, and what it would take for the insurance market to finally reopen the corridor. That breakdown is already on this channel. This video is based on publicly available reports and analysis. Some details may be subject to change.